Ever frozen in a heated argument, wishing you had the perfect comeback? Picture Liam, a 34-year-old sales rep in Los Angeles, stuck in a tense client meeting. His ideas are shot down, and he fumbles, silenced by doubt. Sound familiar? Carl Jung, the genius of psychology, taught that our shadow fears of being ignored or outmatched can mute our true self. In this video, we'll reveal 5 smart responses, rooted in Jung's wisdom, that shut down dismissals and make your voice heard. From diffusing conflict to asserting your worth, these responses empower yourself to shine. Stick around until the end for the one response that turns any debate in your favor. Ready to speak with unshakable confidence? Hit that like button. Subscribe to Jung Psyche Hub, and let's dive into mastering authentic communication. Have you ever been in a heated discussion, feeling dismissed or steamrolled, wishing you could respond without escalating or backing down? Too often, we react defensively or stay silent, letting our shadow, the fear of being ignored or wrong, take over. Carl Jung would say this disconnects us from ourself, the core of who we are. The first smart response to master is, "I hear you, and here's my perspective." This phrase, rooted in Jung's psychology, doesn't just diffuse tension, it affirms yourself, showing confidence without aggression. In this chapter, we'll explore why this response silences dismissals, how it aligns with Jung's idea of individuation, and how to use it to command respect in any conversation. Meet Olivia, a 29-year-old sales manager in Los Angeles. During a team meeting, her colleague pushes for a risky marketing strategy. Olivia disagrees but feels the pressure to stay quiet or argue back. Instead, she says, "I hear you, and here's my perspective." A safer approach could yield better long-term results. The room shifts, her colleague nods, and the team discusses her idea seriously. Compare that to her old habit of saying, "I don't know. Maybe you're right," which got her ignored. By using "I hear you," and "here's my perspective," Olivia validated her colleague without shrinking herself, speaking from herself rather than her shadow. Her confidence invited engagement, not conflict. Why does this response work? Jung taught that the shadow holds fears like being dismissed or causing conflict that we hide behind a persona, the mask we wear to seem agreeable or avoid tension. In tough conversations, the persona might push you to argue defensively or stay silent, both betraying yourself. Saying, "I hear you, and here's my perspective," does 3 things. It acknowledges the other person, diffusing tension. It asserts your viewpoint confidently, aligning with yourself, and it invites dialogue without letting your shadow's fear of rejection take over. Jung's concept of individuation, becoming your truest self, requires expressing your perspective with clarity, not hiding behind doubt or aggression. This response shows you value both connection and your own truth, making others respect you because you respect yourself. How do you make this a habit? Try the self-affirmation pause. Before responding in a tense moment, pause for 2 seconds and ask, "Am I reacting from fear or speaking from myself?" If you feel the urge to argue or shrink, use, "I hear you, and here's my perspective," to ground yourself. For example, instead of snapping, "That won't work," say, "I hear you, and here's my perspective. We need more data to make this call." This practice, inspired by Jung's focus on aligning with the self, trains you to stay calm and assertive. Olivia started using this in meetings, and her ideas went from overlooked to influential, not because they changed, but because she delivered them with conviction. Another tool is shadow journaling. After a conversation where you used this response, write down how it felt and the outcome. I said, "I hear you," and shared my view. The team listened. Jung used journaling to explore the shadow, helping you see that affirming your perspective doesn't make you confrontational, it makes you compelling. Olivia journaled after her meeting and realized her fear of rocking the boat was just her shadow talking. Over time, her confident responses built trust with her team. Why does this matter? In a world of loud debates, work, family, social media, authentic, grounded communication is rare. Jung believed, speaking from the self taps into the collective unconscious, fostering mutual respect and understanding. When you say, "I hear you," and "here's my perspective," you're not just responding, you're claiming your voice, making others lean in because they sense your strength. Let's make this real. When did you stay silent or argue in a tough talk? Try "I hear you," and "here's my perspective this week," and share your story in the comments. It could inspire someone. If this hits home, smash that like button and subscribe to Jung Psyche Hub for more tools to master assertive communication. Next, we'll explore how to redirect a conversation without losing your voice. Have you ever been stuck in a heated debate, feeling cornered by someone's strong opinion, unsure how to respond without clashing or caving? Too often, we either argue back or stay silent, letting our shadow, the fear of being judged or dismissed, mute our voice. Carl Jung would say this disconnects us from ourself, the core that speaks with clarity and purpose. The second smart response to master is, "Let's look at this from another angle." This phrase, rooted in Jung's psychology, redirects tense conversations without shrinking your presence, affirming yourself while keeping the dialogue open. In this chapter, we'll explore why this response silences dismissals, how it aligns with Jung's idea of individuation, and how to use it to command respect in any tough talk. Meet Sophia, a 37-year-old high school teacher in Seattle. During a staff meeting, her principal pushes for a new curriculum that Sophia believes is rushed. In the past, she'd stay quiet or say, "I guess that could work," letting her ideas get overlooked. This time, she says, "Let's look at this from another angle. A phased rollout could ensure better student outcomes." The room shifts, her principal listens, and the team dives into a constructive discussion. Her response didn't challenge directly. It offered a fresh perspective, keeping her voice strong. By using "let's look at this from another angle," Sophia spoke from herself, not her shadow, redirecting the conversation while staying confident and collaborative. Why does this response work? Jung taught that the shadow holds fears like being judged for disagreeing that we mask with a persona of compliance to avoid conflict. In heated moments, the persona might push you to argue aggressively or withdraw, both betraying yourself. Saying, "Let's look at this from another angle," does three things. It acknowledges the current discussion, reducing tension. It introduces your perspective confidently, aligning with yourself, and it invites collaboration without letting your shadow's fear of rejection take over. Jung's concept of individuation, becoming your truest self, requires expressing your ideas without diminishing them. This response shows you value both the conversation and your own truth, making others respect you because you hold your ground gracefully. How do you make this a habit? Try the redirection pause. Before responding in a tense discussion, pause for 2 seconds and ask, "Am I reacting from fear or redirecting from myself?" If you feel the urge to argue or stay silent, use "let's look at this from another angle" to shift the focus. For example, instead of saying, "I don't agree," try, "Let's look at this from another angle. What if we prioritize this instead?" This practice inspired by Jung's focus on aligning with the self, trains you to stay calm and assertive. Sophia started using this in meetings, and her ideas went from ignored to influential. Not because they changed, but because she framed them as collaborative solutions. Another tool is shadow journaling. After redirecting a conversation with this response, write down how it felt and the outcome. I suggested a new angle, and the team engaged. Jung used journaling to explore the shadow, helping you see that redirecting doesn't make you weak, it makes you strategic. Sophia journaled after her meeting and realized her fear of sounding contrary was just her shadow talking. Over time, her confident redirections earned her a reputation as a thoughtful leader. Why does this matter? In a world of polarized debates, work, family, online, redirecting with clarity is rare. Jung believed speaking from the self taps into the collective unconscious, fostering mutual understanding and respect. When you say, "Let's look at this from another angle," you're not just responding, you're steering the conversation, making others lean in because they sense your strength and openness. Let's make this real. When did you feel stuck in a debate and wish you could redirect it? Try, "Let's look at this from another angle this week," and share your story in the comments. It could inspire someone. If this resonates, smash that like button and subscribe to Jung Psyche Hub for more tools to master assertive communication. Next, we'll explore how to pause with power to own your space. Have you ever been blindsided by a tough question or challenge in a conversation? Feeling pressured to respond instantly, only to stumble or agree, just to keep the peace. That urge to answer quickly often comes from your shadow, the fear of seeming unprepared or weak, pushing you to betray yourself. Carl Jung would say this disconnects you from your core, the authentic self that deserves time to process and respond. The third smart response to master is, "I need a moment to think about that." This phrase, rooted in Jung's psychology, buys you time to gather your thoughts, showing strength through deliberate pause rather than rushed agreement. In this chapter, we'll explore why this response silences dismissals, how it aligns with Jung's idea of individuation, and how to use it to command respect in high-pressure talks. Meet Noah, a 33-year-old freelance graphic designer in Miami. During a client negotiation, he's hit with a demand for a steep discount. In the past, Noah would panic and say, "Sure, I guess we can do that," only to regret undermining his value. This time, he says, "I need a moment to think about that." He pauses, reflects, and responds, "I can adjust the timeline instead to fit your budget." The client respects his thoughtfulness, and they reach a fair deal. By using, "I need a moment to think about that," Noah honored his self, not his shadow, showing confidence that invited trust instead of conflict. Why does this response work? Jung taught that the shadow holds fears, like appearing incompetent, that we mask with a persona of instant agreeability to avoid judgment. In high-pressure moments, the persona pushes you to answer quickly or concede, betraying yourself. Saying "I need a moment to think about that" does three things. It asserts your right to process. Showing self-respect, it maintains control of the conversation. Aligning with yourself, and it signals confidence, silencing the shadow's fear of looking weak. Jung's concept of individuation, becoming your truest self, requires honoring your inner process, not rushing to please others. This response shows you value your thoughts, making others value them too, as they see your deliberate strength. How do you make this a habit? Try the self-respect. Pause. When faced with a tough question, pause for 2 seconds and ask, "Am I responding from fear or honoring myself?" If you feel pressured to answer instantly, say, I need a moment to think about that. Then take a breath to gather your thoughts. For example, instead of blurting, "Okay? Fine. Try. I need a moment to think about that," followed by a considered response. This practice, inspired by Jung's focus on aligning with the self, trains you to stay grounded and assertive. Noah started using this in client talks, and his negotiations improved. Not because his offers changed, but because he projected calm, confidence. Another tool is shadow journaling. After using this response, write down how it felt, and the outcome. I paused to think, and the client respected my response. Jung used journaling to explore the shadow, helping you see that taking time doesn't make you weak. It makes you deliberate. Noah journaled after his negotiation and realized his fear of looking unprepared was just his shadow talking. Over time, his thoughtful pauses earned him a reputation as a confident professional. Why does this matter? In a world of rapid-fire demands meetings, negotiations, debates taking time to think is rare. Jung believed honoring the self connects you to the collective unconscious, fostering trust and respect in communication. When you say, "I need a moment to think about that," you're not just pausing, you're claiming your space, making others lean in because they sense your strength. Let's make this real. When did you rush a response and regret it? Try, "I need a moment to think about that this week," and share your story in the comments. It could inspire someone. If this resonates, smash that like button and subscribe to Jung Psyche Hub for more tools to master assertive communication. Next, we'll explore how to clarify with confidence to deepen connection. Have you ever found yourself in a conversation where tension spikes? Words get twisted, and you're left feeling defensive or disconnected, unsure how to clear the air. Misunderstandings can spiral quickly, pushing you to argue impulsively or retreat into silence, both of which leave you unheard. Carl Jung, the brilliant psychologist, I would say these reactions stem from your shadow, that hidden part of you that fears being misunderstood, dismissed, or judged. When the shadow takes over, it drowns out yourself, the authentic core that speaks with clarity and empathy. The fourth smart response to master is, "Here's what I'm hearing. Correct me if I'm wrong." This powerful phrase, deeply rooted in Jung's psychology, transforms heated exchanges by fostering understanding without confrontation. It's not about winning an argument, it's about connecting authentically, affirming yourself, and commanding respect. In this chapter, we'll dive into why this response silences dismissals, how it aligns with Jung's concept of individuation, and how you can use it to build bridges in any tough conversation, ensuring your voice is heard. Imagine Elena, a 41-year-old team leader in Boston, navigating a high-stakes project meeting. Her colleague, frustrated over a missed deadline, snaps, "Your team's lack of updates is slowing us down." In the past, Elena would have reacted defensively, saying, "That's not fair," escalating the conflict, or stayed silent, letting her ideas fade. This time, she takes a breath and says, "Here's what I'm hearing. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're frustrated because you need clearer updates to stay on track." Her colleague pauses, nods, and clarifies, "Exactly. We need weekly reports." The conversation shifts from blame to collaboration, and they agree on a solution. Elena's response didn't just diffuse tension, it showed she understood while holding her ground. By using "here's what I'm hearing," she spoke from herself, not her shadow, turning a potential clash into a moment of connection that earned her respect. Why is this response so effective? Jung taught that the shadow harbors insecurities like the fear of being misunderstood or seen as incompetent that we often mask with a persona, the social face we wear to avoid conflict. In heated moments, the persona might push you to argue aggressively, trying to prove you're right, or to withdraw, hoping to avoid judgment. Both reactions betray yourself. The core that communicates with confidence and empathy, saying, "Here's what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong," works because it achieves three critical goals. First, it demonstrates active listening, showing the other person you value their perspective, which reduces defensiveness. Second, it clarifies their position, preventing misunderstandings that fuel conflict. Third, it keeps you grounded in yourself, silencing the shadow's fear of being misheard by inviting correction without apology. This balance of empathy and assertiveness makes others lean in as they feel heard while respecting your clarity. Jung's concept of individuation, the journey to become your truest self, emphasizes integrating the shadow to express your authentic voice. When you use this response, you're not hiding behind a persona of aggression or timidity. Instead, you're showing up fully, valuing both connection and your own perspective. This aligns with Jung's belief that authentic communication taps into the collective unconscious, the shared reservoir of human experience, where mutual understanding thrives. By clarifying without confrontation, you create a space where both parties feel respected, making it nearly impossible for others to dismiss you. Your words carry weight because they reflect a grounded, empathetic self that commands attention without demanding it. How can you make this response a habit? Start with the connection check. In a tense conversation, pause for 2 seconds and ask yourself, am I reacting from fear or connecting from myself? If you feel the urge to argue or shut down, pivot to, here's what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong. For example, if a colleague says, your plan is too risky, instead of snapping, you don't get it, try, here's what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong. You're concerned about the risks outweighing the benefits. This invites clarification while keeping you in control. Inspired by Jung's focus on aligning with the self, this practice trains you to stay empathetic yet assertive, turning potential conflicts into productive dialogues. Elena started using this in team meetings, and her ability to diffuse tension made her a go-to leader, not because her ideas were new, but because she delivered them with clarity and respect. Another powerful tool is shadow journaling, a practice Jung championed to explore the shadow. After using this response, take a moment to write down how it felt and what happened. For instance, I clarified their frustration, stayed calm, and we found a solution. This exercise helps you recognize when your shadow, the fear of being attacked or misunderstood, tries to take over. By reflecting, you'll see that clarifying doesn't make you vulnerable. It makes you a bridge, builder. Elena journaled after her meeting and realized her old habit of defensiveness stemmed from her shadow's fear of criticism. Over time, her consistent use of this response transformed her team's dynamic, earning her trust as a leader who fosters collaboration. This response isn't just a tactic, it's a mindset shift. In a world of constant miscommunications, whether in boardrooms, family dinners, or online threads, authentic connection is rare. Jung believed that speaking from the self creates a ripple effect, resonating with the collective unconscious to build deeper understanding. When you say, here's what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, you're not just de-escalating, you're forging a connection that makes others value your presence. Your voice becomes undeniable because it balances empathy with strength, silencing dismissals by inviting dialogue. Let's make this practical. Think of a time a misunderstanding spiraled because you couldn't find the right words. This week, Try. Here's what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong. In a tough conversation and notice the difference. Share your story in the comments. It could inspire someone to connect more authentically. If this resonates, hit that like button. Share this video. And subscribe to Jung Psyche Hub with the bell icon for more tools to master active listening and assertive communication. We're almost at the end. Next, we'll explore how to stand firm in disagreements with unshakable confidence. Have you ever found yourself in a disagreement? Your heart racing, wanting to share your perspective but holding back, fearing it might spark conflict or dismissal. That hesitation often stems from your shadow, the hidden part of you that dreads rejection, confrontation, or being seen as wrong. When you suppress your voice or soften your stance to avoid tension, you're letting the shadow mute yourself. The authentic core that speaks with clarity and conviction. Carl Jung, the visionary psychologist, would argue that this disconnect prevents you from fully expressing who you are. The fifth smart response to master is, I see it differently. And here's why. This powerful phrase, deeply rooted in Jung psychology, allows you to disagree confidently without aggression, owning your perspective while keeping the conversation open and respectful. It's not about winning an argument. It's about claiming your truth with grace. Ensuring your voice commands. Attention. In this chapter, we'll explore why this response silences dismissals, how it aligns with Jung's concept of individuation, and how you can use it to assert yourself in any tense exchange, from family discussions to workplace debates. Picture Ava, a 45-year-old parent in Atlanta, navigating a family meeting about her teenage son's future. Her sister insists on enrolling him in a private academy, claiming it's the only path to success. Ava believes a public school aligns better with his creative interests. But in the past, she'd hedge, saying, maybe you're right, but, or stay silent. Letting her perspective fade, her family would move on, dismissing her input as uncertain. This time, Ava takes a deep breath and says, I see it differently. And here's why public schools offer diverse experiences that match his passion for art and collaboration. Her sister pauses, intrigued, and the family engages in a thoughtful discussion, weighing both options. Ava's response didn't escalate tension. It asserted her view with clarity and opened a dialogue by using I see it differently. And here's why. Ava spoke from herself, not her shadow, transforming a potential conflict into a moment of mutual respect. Her confidence invited her family to listen, proving that owning your perspective can shift the dynamic without confrontation. Why is this response so effective? Jung taught that the shadow harbors insecurities like the fear of causing conflict or being dismissed that we often mask with a persona, the social face we wear, to seem agreeable or avoid judgment. In disagreements, the persona might push you to soften your stance with phrases like, I guess, or stay silent to keep the peace, both of which betray yourself. Saying I see it differently, and here's why, achieves three critical goals. First, it acknowledges the other person's view without conceding, maintaining respect and keeping the conversation collaborative. Second, it asserts your perspective with confidence, aligning with yourself and grounding your disagreement in reason. Third, it silences the shadow's fear of rejection by presenting your view as valid and worthy, not apologetic. Jung's concept of individuation, the journey to become your truest self, requires expressing your truth without shrinking it to please others. This response demonstrates that you value both your perspective and the dialogue, making others respect you because you stand firm with grace. How can you make this response a habit? Start with the conviction check, a simple practice inspired by Jung's focus on aligning with the self. Before voicing disagreement in a tense moment, pause for 2 seconds and ask yourself, am I softening my view out of fear? Or am I owning myself? If you feel tempted to hedge with maybe or stay quiet, pivot to I see it differently. And here's why. To state your position clearly, for example, in a work meeting, instead of saying, I don't know, maybe you're right, try, I see it differently. And here's why this approach aligns better with our data. This practice trains you to disagree with confidence and clarity. Censoring your voice carries weight. Ava began using this in family discussions, and her input went from overlooked to influential. Not because her ideas changed, but because she delivered them with unwavering conviction, earning her family's attention and respect. Another powerful tool is shadow journaling, a technique Jung championed to confront the shadow and uncover its influence. After using this response in a conversation, take a moment to write down how it felt and what happened. For example, I stated my view with, I see it differently, and the discussion became collaborative. This exercise helps you recognize when your shadow, the fear of stirring conflict, tries to hold you back. By reflecting, you'll see that standing firm doesn't make you confrontational. It makes you credible and compelling. Ava journaled after her family meeting and realized her old habit of softening her stance came from her shadow's fear of upsetting others. Over time, her consistent use of this response reshaped family dynamics, positioning her as a thoughtful decision-maker whose voice carried weight. This response is more than a phrase, it's a mindset shift toward owning your truth. In a world filled with polarized debates, whether in family talks, workplace meetings, or online arguments, expressing disagreement with grace is rare and powerful. Jung believed that speaking from the self connects you to the collective unconscious, the shared human experience where authentic expression fosters mutual respect and understanding. When you say, I see it differently, and here's why, you're not just disagreeing, you're claiming your place in the conversation, making others lean in because they sense your strength and authenticity. This approach doesn't aim to silence others in a combative way. It silences their dismissals by showing your perspective is valid and worthy of consideration. Let's make this practical. Think of a time you held back a disagreement, fearing conflict, and regretted it later. This week, try, I see it differently. And here's why. In a tough conversation, and notice how it shifts the dynamic, share your story in the comments. It could inspire someone to find their voice if this resonates. Hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to stand firm. And subscribe to Jung Psyche Hub with the bell icon for more tools to master assertive communication and authentic expression. We're almost at the finish line next. We'll wrap up with how to use these responses to shine as your true self, commanding respect in every interaction. You've just unlocked 5 game-changing responses, rooted in Carl Jung's profound psychology, to transform how you communicate and command respect. These phrases, I hear you, and here's my perspective. Let's look at this from another angle. I need a moment to think about that. Here's what I'm hearing. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I see it differently. And here's why aren't just words. They're tools to silence dismissals and let yourself shine. Picture Mia, a 31-year-old project manager in Miami. She used to falter in tense meetings, her ideas ignored because her shadow fear of conflict or rejection held her back. By embracing these responses, she now speaks with clarity, redirect débat, pauses with power, clarifies with empathy, and owns her perspective. Her team listens, not because she's louder, but because she's authentic. That's your power too. Jung said, The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. These responses strip away your shadow. Letting yourself lead. Which one will you try first? Drop. I'm owning my voice in the comments to inspire others. If this lit a fire, smash that like button. Share this with someone who needs to shine. And subscribe to Jung Psyche Hub with the bell icon for more tools to master assertive communication. Your true self isn't just enough, it's unstoppable. Go out there and speak with unshakable confidence.